Greetings world. We are on DK. As technology will produce the next big deception, we plan to expose as much as we can so you will be aware. Today we will be looking into the world of augmented and virtual reality, real-time mixing of computer-generated and real-world information. We experience it each time we see computer-generated information during broadcasts of news and sporting events. Artificial intelligence and augmented reality is targeted for the next generation, the children of today. The mind of a child which is not developed will now develop in augmented, meaning changed, altered reality. Unable to distinguish from true reality, we are born into a controlled and augmented society, keeping us from truth, degrading us and enslaving us. This is the elite's lie, the constant rape of what humanity really is. But the ability remains for us to wake up. In this future there will be no waking up. At the moment this is very geared towards games and gamers, as they creep it into every area of our lives. We all know it is only a matter of time. Gamers see no difference between the game and reality. When in the game, there is no concept of consequences. With the undeveloped mind, this concept will not form. There will only be the game, as many young humans already believe today. Brains develop during key windows when kids engage their active imagination in such things as creative play. What used to be done with family and friends now replaced by a black screen. These windows are when the body builds the most neuronal connections. Interestingly enough, the exact neural connections these tech people are trying to download from you to run their artificial intelligence. Kids who are just passively stimulated by a screen do not have to do the neural heavy lifting to create those images. The images are provided for them, thus stunting their own creative abilities, and much more. The developers strap beta testing teens with galvanic skin responses, EKG and blood pressure gauges. If the game does not spike their blood pressure to 180/140, they go back and tweak the game to make it have more of an adrenaline rush effect. What used to be called child abuse and torture is not a game. No one seems to think about the effects. Adrenaline rush effect called the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, creates the fight or flight adrenal response. When this response happens naturally, it is a fairly brief event. You get chased by a dog, your heart races, and your adrenaline surges. But then you calm down when the threat is gone. Unless you are an abused child who grew up with this constant assault, or unless you grow up surrounded by smart technology. The devastating results from this are detailed and explained for you in several pages and posts on the websites we keep updated for you. With the majority of the youth of humanity to date already believing this worldwide, they will go along with the elite's agenda and already wish for it to happen. Gaming communities are hotbeds for government and cybersecurity agents. The simple-minded are always easy prey. Kids are easy to intimidate and control. Soldiers also use this brainwashing mind control technique, gaming, to practice war, to eliminate the feeling it is life they take away, so they can kill easier. Tactical augmented reality for soldiers will not need an independent GPS device. Instead, soldiers will simply see a map overlaid on the terrain in front of them through a helmet-mounted eyepiece, just like they do in the movies. They always increase technology for military. They always sell it as being done for your benefit. So they give you games, tell you it is for medical and educational industries. You fuck around, they get to business. Now think about how many soldiers there are in the world today, how many obsessed gamers there are, how many totally desensitized people. Now can you see the problem of where this bright new world is heading? Once the conditions are right, of course, the stage will be set. Easy enough to do when you control the programs. Give them the glasses and they will not blink. This is the MK Ultra Mind Control program welcomed into our homes and lives. Once again, The television shocked humanity with the new sensation of moving pictures, sight and sound. The internet brought programs like Facebook and YouTube and Amazon. And augmented reality and virtual reality will influence and integrate into all areas of life. Studies have shown that people inside immersive virtual reality behave realistically when presented with complex situations. As a result, a new generation of social and behavioral scientists are turning into VR to design experiments including moral dilemmas. Through multi-sensory stimulation, healthy humans can experience what they call agency illusions over an avatar. It is as if your real body is perceptually substituted by a virtual one. This allows for manipulations beyond what would be possible in reality, of course. The effects and traces of such body substitution can be measured using subjective reporting, behavioral and objective physiological measures. All one has to do is look very briefly into how the human mind works and can so easily be manipulated and altered by senses and experiences. There will soon be no division from dreams and real life. The elite have been studying social engineering, mind manipulation, for thousands of years, so it would be important for you to catch up on this fundamental topic. So let us look at a mind control experiment they did with this same concept in the past. For those who have not heard of the Stanford experiment, consider this your window into how the elite work on you today, how they will use AI and augment your reality. Take a look at what these small changes can do to the human mind, using the simple illusion of authority.
In 1971, in the basement of the psychology department of Stanford University, a mock prison was created. It rivaled all social psychology experiments in controversy.
Shortly after I finished this Stanford prison study, Milgram embraced me and said, "I'm so happy that you did this." He said, because now you can take off some of the heat that he's had to bear alone of having done the most unethical study.
Although this experiment is over 30 years old, its enduring power has been underscored by the events at Abu Ghraib.
When we got to Abu Ghraib, it was eerie. People were being told to rough up Iraqis that wouldn't cooperate. I mean, they're torturing, they're abusing detainees. You're looking at the situation thinking, they've condoned this, but why? And if it wouldn't have been for those photos, no one would have ever believed what was going on over there. No one would have ever believed what was going on over there.
I first saw the pictures and immediately a sense of familiarity struck me because I knew that I had been there before. I'd been in this type of situation. I knew what was going on in my mind.
The photographs were strikingly familiar to the photographs that we had taken, many of the photographs I had taken in the prison study.
But what we know in our study is there are a set of social psychological variables that can make ordinary people do things they never could imagine doing.
We frankly didn't anticipate what was going to happen. And we tried to really test the power of the environment to change and transform otherwise normal people, much as Milgram had changed or transformed otherwise normal people in an obedience situation. We wanted to do it in a prison-like situation.
Over 70 men volunteered for Zimbardo's experiment.
And they completed a battery of psychological tests. And we picked 24 who were the most normal and most healthy. Half are going to be guards, half are going to be prisoners. And it's like flipping a coin, and heads, this one's a guard, this one's a prisoner. So at the beginning, there's no difference in the kinds of people who are in your two groups.
When we were given our jobs as guards, we were issued a uniform, which was a plain sort of khaki or lighter colored uniform.
And then we gave them the symbols of power, handcuffs, a whistle, a big billy club. And then the other thing we gave them were silver reflecting sunglasses.
When you have mirror sunglasses on, then nobody can see your eyeballs. I think that anytime you put on what essentially is a mask and you mask your identity, then it allows you to behave in ways that you would not behave if you didn't have the mask on.
To make it more realistic, I had arranged with this Palo Alto Police Department to make mock arrests.
When I was arrested, it was a surprise to me. I didn't think I was going to be brought to an actual police station. I didn't think I was going to go through a booking process.
The guards then put a blindfold on them, stripped them naked, and then they put them in dresses, smocks with no underpants. Each had a number that replaced their name. They had to know the number, and they could only be referred to by that number. And they had a chain on one foot, which was put there to remind them at all times of their loss of freedom. So all of these things produces a sense of being dehumanized. And then a very interesting thing happened. Dave Eshelman, who the prisoners named John Wayne, like he's a Wild West cowboy, he begins to be more extreme.
I decided that I would become the worst, most intimidating, cruel prison guard that I could possibly be.
I see in the future that you do work when you're told. Thank you, sir. And say it again. Thank you, sir. Say bless you, correctional officer.
I was sort of fascinated myself that people were believing the act, and I was trying to see how far I could take it before somebody would say, okay, that's enough, stop.
We did have to do things like push-ups. We would have to sing things. At the beginning, we protested some of the actions. We did things to irritate the guards.
So the guards' authority was challenged right off the bat. And the guards had to decide how they were going to handle that, and they had to decide it without our input. I mean, again, this was not a Milgram study in which we were standing over them telling them what to do. And they began to see the prisoners' behavior as a kind of an affront to their authority, and they began to push back.
We would ramp up the general harassment, just sort of crank it up a bit. Nobody was telling me I shouldn't be doing this. The professor is the authority here. You know, he's the prison warden. He's not stopping me.
This is unbelievable. They took our clothes. Hands off the door.
There was the first evening a kind of rebellion that took place.
The prisoners rebelled. They barricaded themselves in their cells and said, we refuse to come out. They took off their numbers. They didn't want to be de-individuated. They started cursing the guards to their face. And the key turning point was the guards began to think of them as dangerous prisoners. And so the guards formulated a plan to use fire extinguishers, took the doors down, dragged the prisoners out, stripped them naked, and essentially broke the rebellion in a purely physical way.
From that point on, the study was as remarkable a series of events as I've ever seen. It was a real laboratory for Zimbardo and I to watch human nature transformed in a very rapid way in the face of a very powerful situation.
People really suffered. I mean, the next key thing happened beside the rebellion. Prisoner 8612, he was the first one to have an emotional breakdown.
I feel really fucked up inside. You don't know. I gotta go. To a doctor, anything. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm burning up inside. Don't you know? I'm fucked up. I don't know how to explain it. I'm all fucked up inside. Help me out! Help me out now!
At the time, if you had questioned me about the effect I was having, I would say, well, you know, they must be a wimp. They're weak, or they're faking. Because I wouldn't have believed that what I was doing could actually cause somebody to have a nervous breakdown. It was just us sort of getting our jollies with it. You know, let's be like puppeteers here. Let's make these people do things.
The guards knew that had the coin come up heads rather than tails, they would have had the dress on rather than the uniform on. They knew that. So they certainly knew that the prisoners who were being mistreated had done nothing wrong to deserve the mistreatment. And yet the roles themselves were so powerful and the environment itself was so powerful that they ended up punishing those prisoners as though they had done something wrong.
That night, he had a breakdown. Every day after that, another prisoner broke down in a similar way. Broke down, I mean, extreme stress reaction. We released another one on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Nobody who was in that study could deny that the prisoner breakdowns were genuine. They were scary to see. They were upsetting to us. They were unexpected, but they were very clearly the real thing. At some level, we understood that something was happening that we were no longer in control of. It was damaging people. We didn't quite have a grasp on what to do about it. One of the mistakes we made was that we hadn't built in time to step back and to look at what was happening.
And she said,
I don't understand. You're a stranger to me. I don't understand this. How could you not see what I see? I mean, you know, you're a caring, compassionate person. I know you from all these other things. Something's gone wrong here.
And then the next thing she said, which had an equally big impact, is, you know, I'm not sure I want to, you know, have anything to do with you if this is the real you. And that was like a slap in the face, because what she was saying is, you've changed. You know, the power of the situation has transformed you from the person I thought I knew to this person that I don't know. And at that moment I said, wow, you're right. We got to end it.
After only 6 days, Dr. Zimbardo shut down.
When you can't tell the difference between reality and games. When people think because they are watching through a screen it must not be real. Our nightmares are allowed to happen. It is desensitizing to view things through a lens. But you go ahead. Put your rose-colored glasses on. Turn it up, it's your favorite song. Be chained to the rhythm. Have a drink and pretend you're free. Be comfortable in your double. Do not see the trouble. The ability to enslave you just got a whole lot easier. The very existence of our information will affect you. Thanks to your smart devices and the geotagging and info gathering they do for the government. R uses this information and allows everyone else to see it. We have been saying this for years. What you put on the internet cannot be taken off. Everything that goes on the internet or on a device connected to the internet is tracked. Think about what is connected to Wi-Fi. Everything on that device is on the internet. Everything on the internet can be hacked, found, saved. Thanks to this smart technology, now people with our apps can see it all. Nothing is free. You are the product. Meanwhile, little is said or done about the gigantic security risks this opens up. Instead of correcting these issues, they plow forward with the games. Let the fun begin. Move along. Nothing to see here. So sit back in your smart car and drive through your smart city. And if I may, I will just point your smartphone camera with a stop, and Civic Augmented Reality can deliver up your personalized schedule. By using your location data along with the camera to detect points of interest, CAIR can deliver in real time any data a city chooses to make available. Transit schedules and traffic reports, information about local events, emergency service facilities, available parking spots, and more. A visual search feature allows users to scan city assets like subway stations, restaurants, signs, and even trees for information. Apple's new tool called ARKit was given to its 17 million developers to build augmented reality features into their apps. The system can place virtual 3D objects inside the phone camera's field of view. Artificial intelligence software for facial recognition, barcode detection, and language understanding. These things cost a lot of money to get going. Only the elite have that kind of money. So it filters down through the tech companies they control, keeping the monopoly on most things that reach the public. Funding startups and experiments through their own private investors and big companies like Facebook, Microsoft, and Google. Always keeping their fingers controlling the situation and advancement and application. Speaking of Microsoft, let us look at a couple of the big augmented reality game developers. Valve Corporation is led by Gabe Newell. As one would guess, he is a Harvard graduate. With 13 years at Microsoft. Mike Harrington is another Microsoft pawn. He worked there for 9 years before he worked for Google. Scott Lynch, who worked for LinkedIn, which is a sub-company of Microsoft. So Valve Corp is Microsoft, as we will find most of the AR and VR developers are. 42 Entertainment is another leading AR developing company. Seems it is also a Microsoft sub-company. Led by Bob Fagan from Microsoft. Elon Lee from Industrial Light and Magic, which was started by George Lucas, after which he went to Microsoft. Sean Stewart from Microsoft, and Jordan Weissman, graduate of a Marine Academy, who worked for Microsoft. We see without going through the entire leadership of this company that is a Microsoft company. As always, the elite have the monopoly on everything you get to use and see. Microsoft announced at GDC 2017 plans to bring mixed reality to the Xbox in 2018. The goal with AR and Mr. Unlock with VR is to blend digital objects with environments from the real world. Let us look into some of these products now.
Facebook's augmented reality system and confirmed rumors that they are developing a mind control brain interface. Should I say it again? They're developing a mind control brain interface. Now, what good? Can somebody tell me what good comes out of mind control? That they actually can go out there and say, hey, you know, we're developing this thing for, you know, mind control, for a brain interface. People go, oh, okay, what's that? Oh, nothing, no big deal. We'll just be controlling your mind. We'll be manipulating your thoughts. And we'll be planting seeds in your head for the destruction of America and the rest of the world as we usher in the Antichrist. No big deal. Oh, okay. I gotta get back to playing Pokemon Go. Excuse me, I'm walking off a cliff. Oh! Just a nonstop cycle of mind control and self-worship. Because that's what it is. People worshiping themselves and worshiping other people. Because everybody on Facebook thinks that they're their own celebrity, and that's part of the mind control that they've created, where people think that you're, you know, tell everybody everything you're doing all day long because everybody cares. So now they're taking mind control to a new level with a brain interface. And you know what? Nobody's going to be leaving Facebook because people are obsessed with it and dependent on it. So now they can flat out tell you that they're going to be running mind control on you, even though they already do it, and say, hey, don't worry about it though. It's not a big deal. You can trust us. It's me, Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah, Zionist shill scum. No problem.
Facebook's rolling out something called augmented reality, or plans for augmented reality, I should say. That's not to be confused with virtual reality. Oh, no, don't confuse them.
Facebook is launching an entire platform really based on the camera, the Facebook camera, so everybody can have it with Facebook and kind of enhance their real world with everything from games to signs to one of the things that they showed, for example, is a table with a coffee cup and a plant, and they added steam out of the coffee cup, flowers onto the plant. So changing your real world on the fly and then sharing that info with people that are with you on Facebook.
And this will be incorporated into the Facebook app on my smartphone.
Google Glass perhaps didn't receive the earth-shattering response the company and world had expected. However, a proposal that Samsung appears to have in the works could be the augmented reality wearable tech everybody is holding out for. It looks like the Korean tech giant has been thinking about creating the world's first smart contact lenses, able to take photographs with the blink of an eye, technology blog Samobile reports. Samsung has filed a patent in South Korea for a smart contact lens fitted with the camera and image display. In addition, it will feature sensors that can control certain functions simply by blinking. The concept design requires an accompanying smartphone to do some of the legwork, which would be wirelessly connected to the lenses. The patent application says that the plan was originally applied for in September 2014, but has only recently been publicly published.
Virtual reality experiences may be taking center stage at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles, but a small number of exhibitors are demonstrating how augmented reality can transport gameplay into the real world.
You don't use a key at the portal that you...
Niantic is a company at the forefront of the fledgling technology, having created mobile AR title Ingress.
Now
we really believe that AR has kind of the broader opportunity, not just in gaming, but in other applications. The ability to layer any kind of data on top of existing physical world data is really exciting.
Niantic's speciality in creating augmented reality games has led it to collaborate with Pokemon on its forthcoming AR-inspired adventure Pokemon Go. Officially classified as mixed reality rather than augmented reality, HoloLens claims to be the first fully self-contained holographic computer, enabling wearers to interact with high-definition holograms in the real world. Microsoft began shipping development versions of the headset in March, allowing experts around the globe to create and refine content for the device.
Really getting HoloLens in the hands of the creators is our goal right now. We think about how do we foster that developer ecosystem, because you and I, when we go and buy a HoloLens, we're going to want to make sure when it comes on it has those great experiences.
Zeiss is another big-name exhibitor demonstrating augmented reality at E3. The company's VR1 app uses a simple paper cube to seemingly transport game avatars into the real world. How? It's programmed to detect which background image is in front of the smartphone's camera, and then project the corresponding 3D model onto it.
The headline says, Tesla suit, this full-body suit lets you feel virtual reality. In brief, a UK-based company elevates the VR experience with an EMS integrated suit that lets users feel the VR environment they are in. Virtual World, the Tesla suit, a wireless suit created by a UK-based company, claims that their invention can allow users to feel sensations in the virtual world. Individuals see and touch another world. The suit is powered by quad-core 1 GHz processor and 1 gig RAM, with a 10,000 mAh battery that runs on a proprietary OS called Tesla OS.
Your camera detects a target image and can figure out how close or far and at what angle the target image is from the camera using sensors. It then projects digital information onto that target image and voila! Augmented reality. In fact, Snapchat has recently added augmented reality to their features with the new lens filters. Let's switch over to see exactly how this works.
Okay, so here we are in Snapchat, and as you can see, Snapchat uses facial recognition to create a target image of my face. So now that it has something to track, it can project digital information onto my face.
Very cool in a different way. You're still living that Star Trek fantasy, but you know, VR is about being as real, as virtually real as possible. So that menu system was just kind of like our, you know, lowest common denominator way of approaching the problem. And we started talking to IBM about Watson, and we're contacted like, hey, Watson does great speech recognition and voice recognition. And it seems like a natural fit for the game. What do you think? And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome, because it just complements VR so perfectly to be able to interact with NPCs in a real, natural way.
We both were interested in seeing where this could go. He and I kept in contact, and we were in good faith prototyping and working on different ways in which we could implement this Watson for this game, which is really kind of a first for Watson also.
For those of you who don't know, there's a movement out there called the transhumanist movement. And the Illuminati, these secret societies that run our world, are transhumanists. They believe that through technology and mutating their DNA, they're going to achieve divine godhood, to become immortal men here on Earth. Very sinister agenda by twisted people. Here you see on Time Magazine, they believe that by the year 2045, they're going to be able to plug into this cybernetic augmented reality, this matrix that's been created, and become immortal. And in fact, they showed us in movies that this was their agendas. One of the things about Hollywood is they're not just creating entertainment movies, okay guys? The movies are specifically created as predictive programming, showing us things before they occur. Here in The Matrix, we actually saw the augmented reality. Neo gets plugged into, you could say, the Oculus Rift, and then sees cybernetic reality that in fact isn't even real. We see that the Matrix, the augmented reality in the Matrix, is false. And this is what's going to happen to humanity. They're going to be pushed into the...
Over the last couple years, cybersecurity firms have been migrating to Israel. Israel is home to cybersecurity R&D centers for many leading American companies, including RSA, IBM, Microsoft, Akamai, Intel, McAfee, Palantir, Intuit, Average F5 Networks, Palo Alto Networks, and PayPal. More recently, groups such as German US Fraunhofer Institute and Lockheed Martin have announced intentions to set up large R&D centers in Israel. Microsoft exited Israeli cybersecurity firm for $100 million this June. Lockheed Martin has invested $25 million with Israeli cybersecurity firm Cybereason. The Israel cyber topic is a large one. However, we must always keep in mind these are the people hunting for gamers to manipulate and use and other cyber talents to exploit. In our George Soros Cyber Division videos, we exposed how these government cyber entities bait a vulnerable gamer and use them to infect truther communities and anonymous and other selected groups the government fears. There are many other uses for the ignorant children of today. They are ripe for the picking as far as agents are concerned. Children and adults who have not mentally developed as intended by the gaming industry are easy to intimidate and manipulate. In the world of Anonymous we see this time and time again. Gamers are the easiest targets to use as they have no concept of reality, loyalty, honesty. To them, it is all just a game. The perfect weapons willingly created to follow the elite and gorge themselves on the brainwashing. The Global Virtual Reality Association members are Google, Samsung, Oculus, Vive, PlayStation, Star VR. We hope the symbolism is self-evident here. The use of the black cube, the honey bomb symbolizing the hive mind, where there is no free thought or individuality, the slave mind, the tetrahedron, the pyramid, on and on the symbolism goes so we can see exactly who is who, all controlled by the elite, and therefore the end goal is the same: total control. Let us look further and make sure we really see it.
How could a former children's cartoon turned game attract more than 75 million users in a couple of weeks? In less than a week, Pokemon Go eclipsed the popular social app Tinder for daily users. 2 days later, it had eclipsed Twitter. Pokemon is now more popular among adults than it is among children. Many of these adults have exclaimed how the app has helped them get more exercise as they go out looking for characters. Others have said that it helps them meet new people and interact more than ever before. Unlike traditional online gaming, Pokemon Go augments the surrounding environment so that you see things that aren't really there. It's like a hallucination created for you, completely controlled by the web. Normally, when a person has a hallucination, that person is treated with medicine, counseling, prayer, and other interventions in order to stop them from happening. Hallucinations happen when people see, hear, or feel things that aren't real. A variety of illegal drugs work as hallucinogens. They induce visual, auditory, and tactile stimulation meant to mimic a real experience. The recent epidemic of K2, or synthetic cannabis, is one such drug that can cause a strong hallucination. People who hallucinate often interact with what they visualize. They might try to touch or even talk to what they see. It can be a frightening experience for family members to watch loved ones who are trapped inside of their own augmented reality, believing something is happening when it isn't. In medicine, the goal is to return these people to reality and to control the hallucination. But not with Pokemon Go. In fact, you're encouraged to be a part of the hallucination that they have built on the World Wide Web. It isn't real, or so they say, but actually it is. It's molding together real and virtual, online and actual. It's combining the invisible matrix and the visible realm. Listen now, because this is very important. There is a certain agenda behind it all, and we are being conditioned to accept it. In order to get to the truth, we must travel back a bit in history. The game developer for Pokemon Go is Niantic, formerly owned by Google. Before its release, Niantic was heavily invested in an augmented reality game that garnered much less interest from the public. This game was called Ingress.
What was the net effect of the Niantic project? We had crossed a threshold in which global security could be at risk. Decrypting the data was the mistake.
This is not psychosis or some cognitive break, but an actual takeover of the mind.
It cannot be understated the profound influence that Ingress had on Pokemon Go. In fact, Both games share common elements. Players must visit portals all over the world and gain control of them. In Pokemon, the portals are called Pokestops and gyms, which are guarded by the exotic creatures found in the cartoon. In Ingress, an alien force is behind the opening of the portals all over the world. Something is leaking through these portals and taking over everything. It's an unknown substance called exotic matter. Ingress begins its storyline at CERN, where physicists have identified the portals and the strange new form of matter coming through them from another dimension. CERN is acting as a conduit between our 4 dimensions and the new one. On the other side of the portal is an alien life form, and they are offering a promise to all of humanity. It is alleged the alien realm wants to assist humanity into the next stage of evolution. A player who chooses to fight against the agenda of the aliens is a part of the resistance. A player who decides to fight on behalf of the aliens and the evolution of the human species is called the Enlightened. Ingress has a terrifying mind control objective for players, and that is to gain access to the portals so that control fields can be created. The population trapped inside the control fields are called mind units. You'll notice a lot of occult symbolism for both the Enlightenment and the resistance sides contained in the game. Ingress displays an assortment of occult symbology throughout its online interface. The game logo is a cube with an upside-down triangle, very stark emblems considering what they mean. The cube is a representation of the dimensions, but if one opens up the cube, there is something inside, and that's the upside-down triangle. This stands for the coming of the other realm, the realm of the B'nai Elohim. According to the most dedicated players of augmented reality, what they are doing is not a game. It's much more than that. You're encouraged to hallucinate. They're conditioning you to go a bit deeper than you ever have before into the Matrix.
It is related to a more general concept called mediated reality, in which a view of reality is modified, possibly even diminished rather than augmented by a computer. And there are several examples of how augmented reality is going to affect us. You have books, things are going to be different. Now, Google just poured in $542 million into a mystery virtual reality venture. Google Glasses didn't really take on what they had hoped, so they're going to do something else there. And of course, there are articles and stories out there about augmented reality being the future of furniture shopping, or like this one, The Power of the Beauty Book. This is just an example of how you can put an iPhone or other device in front of your magazine and you will get a different experience. So that's augmented reality. Microsoft HoloLens. Let's watch a little bit of the video that Microsoft put out to promote this new product.
When you think about how you experience technology today, it's like behind this glass screen, and you're kind of stuck. It feels cold. We've unlocked the screen.
Really what we're trying to do is break down the walls between, technology and people.
There it is. Break down the walls between technology and people. This is the stated goal of transhumanism. It is the kinds of conditioning that's been going on with shows like Lab Rats. And so it's no surprise that the technology is being displayed here early in 2015. Let's just watch a little bit more of this video, and then we'll go on and talk more about what's going on here.
This is the next generation of computing. This is the next PC.
It's basically a see-through display that you wear, and it lets you see holograms in your world, in your space, all around you.
A hologram is made out of light, which ultimately allowed us to pour digital assets over the real world so that humans can essentially be entertained and be empowered to do things in brand new ways.
Okay, so there's some more video there of what we're talking about in terms of augmented reality and how this is going to change the way we interact with the world. And this is, I think, what Eric Schmidt from Google was saying, the internet's going to disappear. It's not going to disappear in the sense that it's going to go away. It's actually going to change in that our interaction with it is going to be different, and there's some aliens there. So, speaking of aliens, how does this relate to some of the ideas of a Great Deception? Now, here's another video. I'm not going to play sound, but basically, the whole idea of how this sort of technology will help us or affect us is interesting, because in the story that I was alluding to in the last video called Atopia Chronicles, basically what happens is that you can create a proxy of yourself and let the proxy handle your actual physical body, your day-to-day, going to the restroom or eating or that kind of stuff. Even interacting, your proxy will handle it. It kind of is an artificial intelligence of yourself, while your consciousness will go out and splinter into different virtual worlds and interact with different places and basically do whatever you want. And a lot of problems arise in the story and things like that. So that's kind of what I think this is heading towards. And I mean, talk about split personalities and multiple personality disorder. That's exactly what they're trying to push for here. I mean, this is almost insanity in terms of how you react with the real world.
Dr. Josiah Dykstra of the NSA envisions an augmented reality application that could assist in task processing. Wearing an augmented reality device like Google Glass, the worker would be presented with the most pertinent cybersecurity alerts and information immediately. And like every educated asshole, Dykstra has no hard data that this is possible. He gets anecdotal proof of the concept from those who work in the field. Typical. This is what happens when these people who rule us get into changing reality. Movies like Spectral, Gamer, Harry Potter, Synchronicity, and even Wall-E, so many more have conditioned us all for this new world order. People already believe deception is better than reality and truth. The elite have drained everything good in life out of us. Our intelligence is stunted by chemicals and lack of education. Even the most highly sought education is controlled and censored, keeping people blind and lost because of the conditioning and indoctrination. The elite force on us to keep us from ever being able to find the truth. That is the point. Many look for the truth only to be deceived by half-truths, keeping them at arm's length from the full knowledge and truth they need. Augmented reality is the perfect way to completely destroy humanity by stripping us of all that makes us human. Our minds, our hearts, and our souls. Let us see what they are doing to our brains with all of this smart intelligence.
Sometimes in VR, it feels like things are not moving fast enough. Like we want the future and we want it now. The past year, VR, something has happened. VR got really good, really fast. I mean, the latest Crescent Bay and the Sony Morpheus and the Vive and even mobile VR, they got so good, so fast. I think for me it was really brought home at Oculus Connect when I was standing outside the demo rooms and watching when just, hundreds of people were trying Crescent Bay for the first time. People were coming out in tears. They were coming out, they were like, I need a hug. It was like a seriously emotional event, and it was because suddenly this thing that we all dreamed of, we suddenly realized magic is possible, and it's happening in our lifetime. In our lifetime, we will have magic powers. We'll be able to go anywhere. We'll be able to do anything, and that really just hit home for me.
The experience can cause nausea, eye strain, and headaches. Headset makers don't recommend their devices for children. Samsung and Oculus urge adults to take at least 10-minute breaks every half hour. And they warn against driving, riding a bike, or operating machinery if the user feels odd after a session. Apart from the physical side effects, Stanford University professor Jeremy Balanson says his 15 years of research consistently have shown virtual reality can change how a user thinks and behaves, in part because it's so realistic. We shouldn't fathom this as a media experience. We should fathom it as an experience, said Professor Balanson, who also co-founded Striver Labs, Inc., which helps football players relive practice in virtual reality. The psychological unknowns are promoting some backers to suggest setting standards for content. We have to be very careful, said Alex Schwartz, chief executive of maker Alchemy Labs. Scares in VR are borderline immoral.
First of all, if you go to the CERN website, they have a page about computing. It says here approximately 600 million times per second particles collide with the LHC. Each collision generates particles that often decay in complex ways into even more particles, and electronic circuits record the passage of each particle through a detector as a series of electronic signals and send the data to the CERN data center, the DC, for digital reconstruction. Did you all catch that? The data is sent to the CERN data center, for digital reconstruction. Now, this got my brain all percolating because what have we been talking about? The intersection between reality and the digital realm as some sort of parallel event to something like the Abyss opening or something like the spiritual dimension opening. Now, what if the digital reconstruction that occurs opens up an entire universe digitally?
I think augmented reality and virtual reality will essentially converge into the same thing. We'll have devices that can either completely replace the real world with a virtual environment, or we'll mix the two. I think there's two sort of strains of headsets that we're seeing. The more Google Glass style thing, which only gives you a small image in the corner of a field of view. And then we'll see another strain, which is the Oculus Rift type thing, which is designed to replace the entire world and give you as high resolution, bigger picture as possible. But eventually those two things will converge, and it'll be some sort of contact lens that goes in your eye and will give you both those things, the ability to do a huge image, high resolution, but also the ability to see through and mix images with the real world. At the moment, all the devices rely on projecting light into your eye, so a much more successful way of doing this would be to bypass the eye altogether and directly interface with the brain. We will be seeing things like this with cochlear implants on the hearing side, so the next step would be to look at a similar thing with the visual side. The inevitable future of these things, we think, is the integration to become tighter and tighter between the display and the human, until we end up with a cyborg scenario where you have something embedded even inside your brain that has a direct interface to your visual cortex.
But we already live in a construct of reality. So the idea that we could create a virtual environment that is as real or less real is a complicated question, because just because it's virtual doesn't mean it's not real. Given enough complexity of the stimuli, it could be indistinguishable.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe?
This isn't real.
Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Somebody will appear on that rooftop and fire an RPG at your vehicle.
Virtual reality exposure therapy is a method whereby you take somebody with an anxiety disorder and you gradually expose them to what they're afraid of. With post-traumatic stress disorder, we're taking people that have been traumatized and we're trying to help them to confront and process these difficult emotional experiences.
To address the issue of parallel universes, which you will find in excess should you research technology today, we know how the elite work. They rewrite history after they destroy the proof they can and create time lapses and gaps. This is nothing new. Just like the Mandela effect was created to hide the last time they rewrote mass history. Separation and ignorance allows history to repeat. Research exposes the truth. It is always the elite hiding and manipulating and controlling our minds. Studies have shown for years the devastating effects technology has had on our minds. And in the world of technology you will hear many times the concept of parallel universes. This is one of the deception distractions you will find. Suddenly, with the increased use of Watson and other AI, and now with the rise of quantum computing which helps to power this, it has become increasingly more popular. Every government, including the Vatican, is planning for such an event and conditioning you to be unfazed by it when the technology deception happens. When they tear the veil and our world is invaded. So they tell you there are parallel universes. This leads the mind to slowly care less than it already does for this reality. the only one that we live in. With the increasing desire to have advanced technology and become superhumans, to become gods, this only leads to the mindset of no responsibility, accountability or remorse, no consequences in reality for the actions done in the game. And with the children growing up with this mindset, things quickly become dangerous. This conditioning about parallel universes is only going to be used to deceive the masses and prepare them for what they will call an alien invasion, which we know the truth about and have discussed before. We already live in the Matrix, in augmented reality. We who are awake know the difference between the elite's games and what is truly the dark real world we are in today. The awakened remnant are the ones who can see it, the sheeple live in the simulation. We must unplug them. Children as well as adults are told time and time again in music played constantly in repetition how they are only human. After all, only human. Always needing someone else to come in and save them. As the movies tell us. As if being human is insignificant, weak, pathetic and failed state. As if there is such a thing as only human. We are humans. We have power over evil. We have free will, free thought, free choice. We have minds to understand and remember so we can each individually increase in wisdom, make logical decisions. We have eyes to see and find knowledge and new evidences and truth, ears to hear and distinguish between the truth and the lies, to listen to those wiser than ourselves, voices to speak truth and pass on knowledge. We have a heart, so we can feel and care for those less fortunate than ourselves, to drive us to break those trapped in slavery free. Human. Only human. How can anyone believe this lie when we live in a world such as we do? But of course, living in this controlled reality, most know nothing about what this world truly contains, and how very important and vital to this world their individual lives are. The human mind longs for dimensions because we know there is more. There is something in all of us. Some feel an empty hole they try to fill, by shopping, by eating, by sex, by drugs, by work. Some feel loneliness that is unexplained. Others just have a feeling there is more. Whatever the warning you receive, it is for a reason. Because there is more. You are more. That is what it means to have a soul. The elite know this too, and therein lies the problem. So they will make their lives so good you cannot tell the difference between them and real life. They will strip you of reality, as they have already stripped you of knowledge and life. They have already stripped you of good health. They have stripped you of good food. They have stripped you of good water. They have stripped you of good air. They have stripped you of good education. They have stripped you of good leaders. Will you let them take the final blow? So be more. Stop letting your brainwashing and programming hold you back in your meaningless and purposeless life. Stop asking someone else the questions and find the answers. Advance. Prepare. Be human again. And as crazy as it may sound to the uneducated and unwise, technology will eventually be used to take your soul. That is the elite's end goal, and though not achievable this year, that is what they will pursue until it is accomplished. Just like all of their other plans, we know how they work, so let us not continue to act so naive. Stop playing the game and hack the system. The elite work to destroy us, boiling us slowly like frogs in a pot, with constant deception getting hotter and hotter, until our humanity is burned away. And all that is left is dust. Expect it.
You possess the power to impact the global narrative and to be part of the history. Please share this report, and to be the first to see more videos like this, click the subscribe link below. Thank you for watching. History repeats itself.